Okay, so today I had my second neurofeedback appointment that was actually working toward what we needed, not just diagnostic, but actually working. And I was very impressed with my progress. I'm insanely proud of myself, which does not come easy for me to say, I gotta tell you. Okay, so yesterday I watched the Jetsons, and today he's like, you didn't get very far in that episode, you just want to watch the same one. I was like, yeah, sure. Because again, it's a very choppy thing for the most part, because he sets it at a level that's going to be challenging for my brain to keep the levels below. Now, when the level goes below where he wants it, yay, that means I get the positive reinforcement of the show playing, right? So, but those levels change so quickly that it comes across as very like until my brain figures it out and it starts to run more smoothly for any length of time. Now, yesterday, my anxiety level, he's like, honestly was like pretty severe. It was at a pretty consistent 20. Okay. And he was saying that 5 is where he wants it to be. And I was like, oh, okay, that's going to take a really long time. And I'm trying not to like overthink that. Right. Cause that doesn't help my anxiety any if I'm just going to overthink it. So today I went in with what I tried to just have very realistic expectations, knowing that this is a process. This is going to be something that takes time, and it is what it is. It's an experience. It's not a hurry up and get there destination type situation. So I came in today and he's like, okay, so same episode. We'll just jump right in. I was like, great. Now that I know what to expect. I kicked my shoes off and I sat cross-legged on the chair and like kind of got comfy. I was like, okay. He's like, yes, thank you. That I want you to be comfortable. Think about, letting your shoulders relax, trying to like ease any tension in the neck. If you can like just actively think, okay, slacken the jaw slightly. You don't have to like sit there slack-jawed, but try not to keep the tension in the jaw and just be. And if you know me, you know that that's actually a really difficult thing for me to do because my brain goes a mile a minute, right? Thanks anxiety, thanks learned behavior from childhood, all of these things, right? This hypervigilance of like always had to be on. So I had low expectations for today. I went in thinking, so yesterday the threshold was I want it below 20. And so today he's like, we're going to aim for below 15, meaning if my anxiety continues to spike up and up and up, the show will stop, right? And so your unconscious brain learns quickly how to get the show to play. It's not me actively thinking, play, show, play, like, that just aids in anxiety, right? So what I did today, he said, you can focus on the show, you can focus on the meter. Cause like I was telling y'all before, he can show me what he's gauging. So there were my alpha waves. That was kind of like a teal blue over here, but I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on the yellow. The yellow was the anxiety marker, basically. That was the wave it was tracking. And so I knew I wanted it below 15. So what I found was that like listening to the show was more helpful for me. And I stayed kind of in that comfortable, seated, snuggled up position. And what I did was I focused on my breathing. Because I've learned that if I can calm my physiology, my physical being, if I can use some calming tactics in that way, breath is really important. Okay. So I wanted to deep inhale, like letting my belly be full and out. Like, who cares? I need to fill my diaphragm like full of air, not have that rapid, like shallow chest breathing like that just aids in anxiety. So I didn't want that to happen, right? So I was focused on that. I'm looking at the yellow bar going up and down and it would spike. But something that also I kept kind of this mantra going in my head. Now, usually he told me, he's like, usually I would tell someone to like pedal back and like push the brakes on chatter in your mind, right? But for me, what I did today was like, basically I George Costanza'd it and did the opposite of what I usually did. Something I've been working really hard on is self-compassion. And by working really hard on, I mean like allowing myself. So self-compassion is huge. It is kindness and grace and gratitude towards yourself, which we're always the most hard on ourselves, I'm realizing. But when I do give myself kindness and grace in that, reminding myself that like, this is hard. You're asking your brain to unlearn a lifetime's worth of anxiety. That's what you're hoping for, of learned behavior. You're trying to unlearn that and learn something new. You have to have so much love and compassion and grace for yourself right now. So that's the kind of stuff I thought when I looked at that little bar today. So there was a timer, and I guess it was 30 minutes. It must have been 30 minutes. Sometimes I would glance up at the time, but mostly I just sat and focused on that bar going up and down, and it would fluctuate. Now I noticed when I did like move, it would spike, but I spoke with Dr. Cochran after it, and he told me that big muscle movements like that will cause that, and that has nothing to do with my anxiety. So to try, I don't have to be still, but to know that that's what those are when I did like shift and like put my other leg under me and stuff like that. So I thought to myself, under 15, all I want right now is to focus on that staying under 15. Now remember, yesterday was 20. And it would spike higher than that, but like 20, we wanted to be below 20. Today, he wanted me to be below 15 to make the show play. When I focused on that, and I was focused on my breathing, I was looking at that, I was listening to the show. I was taking deep inhales. I was trying to make my exhale longer than my inhale, because I've learned through yoga technique and stuff that type of breathing is more beneficial in calming your nervous system. So it will help take you out of that fight or flight mode if that's where your anxiety goes, which mine often does. And it will help remind you. And I would say in my head, you are safe. You're in a safe place. Your brain is working really hard. And I even thought to myself, good job, brain. I'm really proud of you. And sometimes I would put my hand on my chest, on my heart, and be like, this is tough, but you can do it. You got this. You can do this. And I noticed that as I did that, and I continued to breathe deeply and just focus on that and not let myself go to that like zoned out, disassociated state where I'm like in my head. And like, so for me, how that manifests is, do you guys remember those magic eye posters where it looks like if you're just like glance at it, it's just a bunch of like colored dots, right? Almost like pointillism, but like way tinier. And what you had to do is basically kind of like almost like cross your eyes or unfocus your eyes to be able to see the 3D image that eventually would pop out at you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not sure how else to best explain it, because that's what I do. I realized I do this, and it actually leads to tension headaches. I feel like I'm putting too much strain on my optic nerves because I'm doing that frequently. And so when Dr. Cochran was describing to me in our intro session post EEG, when he was explaining parts of it, he's like, so part of your brain that we're gonna work on calming is like disassociation. And I was like, I don't think I disassociate and like out of my body and like stay in my head, but I realized that that's what that is. That's what I'm doing. When I'm stressed, when I'm overwhelmed, when I have anxiety, it's odd because I don't necessarily like actively feel it, but my brain obviously does, and my eyes will do that, and I'll just kind of like zone out. I can hear, like, it's not like I'm still totally there and present, and it's not like I shift out of my body, but I go much more into my head as opposed to like actively like looking around and being like conversational or whatever. But like my eyes will kind of go like glazed over, and I'll just kind of like focus on something. And then like I go into it, and I have to be like, I've started doing the no stop technique where I'm like, no. And if I say that out loud, it'll kind of like jolt me out of that realm. But that's what that is for me. It's not the disassociation necessarily that you hear from like victims who have been, or survivors that have been raped or something, where disassociation where they can't handle and they don't feel like they can get out of the situation. So their body is there, and they dissociate, and they just go into their head, and they're not there anymore. Because that's the connotation I had with it when he originally said it. I was like, I don't think I do that. But that's what I'm doing when I do that. So all that to say, sorry, long story longer. as I was looking at that gauge of the anxiety level, that yellow bar, I had to actively think, don't do that. That is a coping mechanism that does not serve us, my brain, me, my well-being. Don't do that. So if I felt myself kind of like going there, I would blink a couple times. I would take another deep breath, and I would glance at the screen where the Jetsons was playing. And so I'm still hearing it regardless. But then that would kind of like help me do that like no moment of like, got to get out of that. So it got to the point during that 30-minute stint of time where I'm watching the show where I was consistently getting it below 15. And I was like giving myself like mad props in my head saying like, you've got this, you're doing amazing. This is hard, but you're doing it. Good job, brain. You're learning. You are unlearning negative stuff and you are learning positive things. You're a rock star. I'm so proud of you. Saying this stuff to myself while I do the deep breathing. And then I got to a point where I was like, under 10. It was just kind of like a little science experiment with myself. I was like, under 10. You can get under 10. And I would take deep breaths and I would focus on, I want it to go under 10. And I did that consistently. And then I got to the point within the 30 minutes that I was starting to say under 5. I want it under 5. And it wasn't consistently under 5, but I got to the point where it was like 6, 7, which like, guys, yesterday it was 20 something consistently. And I wanted to get under 20 something. Today, I got down to like 6 or 7 pretty consistently. He came in and he talked to me and I told him all of that. And he's like, he said he was dumbfounded at, I'm going to cry. I feel like I might cry talking about this. He said he was dumbfounded at how quickly I had made progress and that he was so proud of me for doing that positive self-talk, because people with anxiety, what happens is, and this is the story of my life, where you can't immediately be perfect at something. And then there's that immediate negative self-talk like, well, you're just so stupid. Why can't you do this? Other people can do it, obviously. And then your anxiety spikes, right? So the fact that I went against that and I actively was, I'm going to cry because like my goal is I want to be present. I want to be present in my day-to-day life. I don't want to disassociate. I don't want to let anxiety rule me. And I feel like I made really big leap today in that. And hearing him say he was proud of me and how that was pretty unheard of. And I was like, hell yeah, man. Like I was so proud of myself. And just to hear my voice saying, I'm so proud of myself. Like that's huge. That's huge for me. So, I go back in about a week. So I did 2 sessions back to back and then I go back next week when Andrew and I are back in town. But I just want to like give myself a hug. Like I'm so fucking proud of myself. So it was good. Today was good.